Once again, welcome. I'm here with Stephen Goldie, urban planner, currently residing in Al Ain. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. Now, your most recent role was with the municipality of Al Ain. Is that correct?
I'm still officially city planning advisor with Al Ain Municipality, which is part of the Department of Municipalities and Transport of
Yes.
Abu Dhabi.
And as a result of that, you're based there in the Middle East, and you were fortunate enough during the week to present or actually talk at a conference nearby there. Is that correct?
Yes, I went to the Saudi Smart Cities Conference in Jeddah, in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Yes.
Wow. And you attended the Expo. Just break down a little about its origin and I guess the goals of the Expo.
Okay, well, a summit and expo, I'll just do a little bit of explanation of conference speak.
Yes, yes.
Okay, a summit and expo means that there is one hall with speakers and, people sitting either in rows or round tables. This one was around tables to hear people speak. And then next door or in the foyer, there's a big hall and there are trade displays. That's the exposition part of it.
Okay.
And those trade displays, of course, had different things related to smart cities and even some that were on the edge of being related to smart cities. RAK Ceramics were there and from Ras Al Khaimah, and I've got a friend who's a planning advisor in Ras Al Khaimah, so all good. So the expo was about various smart city products, mostly. Okay. So the presentations were, again, about smart city and various aspects of smart city. Yeah.
So just for those that are unaware, can you explain smart cities a little for us?
Okay. Smart city is the application of mostly artificial intelligence-based technologies in order to better manage the city. This is the bit that most people miss. All right? The city does not become smarter. The people in the city do not become smarter. That requires education, which is completely different to smart cities. Okay?
Yes.
Smart city is really smart city management.
Okay.
It's about how to manage the city better, more efficiently, more effectively, and hopefully with cost savings.
Yes.
Okay? So it's mostly stuff that is deployed by municipalities and governments of some sort. So, for example, if you have a smartphone that has an application like Google Maps or Apple Maps, and of course the Uber has its own app and so on, then those apps, by measuring the speed of everybody who's on the app, tell everybody who's on the app where the slow spots are.
Yes. And
there's a famous case recently of a guy who borrowed 100 smartphones and dragged them around on the trolley to convince Google Maps that there was a traffic jam. I think that was in Italy. But anyway, you can look that up.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to be a real problem because not enough people are going to lend their phones to someone to do that. Yeah. There's a famous or a well-known paper. I can't remember the exact title. It's Jane Jacobs proven using smartphone data, and Jane Jacobs was a famous planning theorist from North America from the 1960s and 70s. Wrote some wonderful books, the best of them being The Death and Life of Great American Cities. She made certain claims there about what a city was, but no one had ever been able to prove it. But using mobile phone data, researchers were able to show that certain streets with certain characteristics work better. So that's all AI related.
Okay, so it's improving the delivery.
Sorry, go on.
It's improving the delivery of services to the people of the city and having a better understanding of where to deploy resources, I guess.
Yes, it's smart city management. Yes.
I love it.
But smart city sounds so good in a headline.
Yes.
That no one applies the word management. My biggest fear with it, well, there's two big fears. Sound like Monty Python. 3 big fears. The first is that some of these technologies are so expensive that governments will be conned into buying really expensive technologies that don't deliver the ongoing cost savings.
Yes.
For the companies that make it and consult on it, but not so good for the communities. So I think city managers and councils need to be very careful that they're investing their money wisely.
Yes.
The second is that it does give the potential for surveillance.
Okay.
And there's been a recent, I know nothing about it other than I saw the headline, but was a headline about the Smart City program in Darwin being about surveillance.
Okay.
Don't know whether that's true or not. I just saw the headline. I was busy, didn't have time to read it. And then there's even if it's not intended for surveillance, there's the fact that it collects terabytes of data about the people in the city.
Yes.
And so one session, most of the second day, was about security of that data.
Yes.
How to manage it,
yes.
and how to use it. And data was a constant theme. My presentation is about using that data in a positive way.
Well, that was actually, that's a funny segue into my next question. I guess, do smart cities currently exist? And of course, you were talking at the conference, so you've obviously had some experience or know a bit about the subject.
Okay. There's 2 questions in there. Do smart cities exist? Yes. And I'll talk about Songdo in a second, which is the one I visited. And my presentation was actually about AI-assisted planning.
Okay.
And I have given that presentation in other places, and I've called it Smart Planning for Smart Cities. But in this particular case, the conference organisers liked the title AI-assisted urban planning, so that's what it went on. Just to go back to Songdo. Songdo is in South Korea.
Yes.
It's southwest of Seoul. It feels like it's 200 kilometres away, but I think it's about 50 kilometres away. The reason it seems so far away is because it is a difficult drive and a very difficult rail journey. So let's talk about the smart bit first. Okay, the things that are there that are smart. For example, if you have an apartment there, when you drive to the door of the garage recognises your car, opens the door. Also, it calls the lift.
Oh.
So that when you get out of your car and walk to the lift, the closest lift to your car parking space, the lift should already be there waiting for you, and you jump in and you go to your floor. I didn't get into one of the apartments, but apparently they have consoles that allow you to monitor and manage your energy usage and things of that nature. And I presume they've got intelligent garbage chutes and things like that. Out on the street, there are intelligent garbage bins. So you put your garbage into the bin and it sends it down to a chute, and that sends it by compressed air off to a material recovery facility or something of that nature.
Whoa.
And that's all great. The layout it's a bit typical. We call it vertical sprawl.
Okay.
There'll be a city block, a big city super block, I should say, perhaps a half a K by a K or something of that size, filled with 50 identical skyscrapers. So it looks like sprawl. It's just very, very tall sprawl, but it's still sprawl.
Yeah.
They're not individually designed. They don't have any particular harmony or beauty or anything like that happening. One of the areas I went to near an inlet, and they were paying a lot of attention to the ground floor plane, but in the other areas they weren't paying very much attention to the ground floor. So if all of your architectural focus is on a tower, even if you're repeating it 50 times, people only experience that by looking out their window. Their real experience is on the ground floor plane.
Yes.
They come out of the building and they walk around.
Yes.
And so if you're putting that many more people into a place, you need to put that much more effort into making the ground floor plane work.
That's a great point.
For example, Corbusier's L'Habitation in Marseille does that very, very much. But most architects don't copy it. They just go and look at it and then forget about it, I think. However, now the Central Park is very nice. The Central Park is all traditional Korean theme.
Oh, beautiful!
It's traditional. It's repro to traditional Korean around a beautiful lake and nice landscaping, and of course everybody goes there. People drive from other parts of the city to go there.
Just to go there.
It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay? But to walk there, Songdo is not very walkable, so only a few buildings are within walking distance, and most people have to drive there, which means you've got to have a massive car park, which spoils the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
So the things that aren't smart. I said you would drive your car to your apartment. Okay? You need to drive because to get to Seoul, which would be the main employment centre for business people, it takes, I think, 3 and because it takes that much change of train, people have not moved to Songdo because why would you? Because everybody else who's moved creates a traffic jam, and if you buy there, you're just going to add to the traffic jam and you're going to spend your life in a car going to work or coming back from work. So it would have been better if they'd spent not so much money on intelligent gizmos within the apartments and much more money in sorting out the transit route so you could get directly to Central Seoul and perhaps to one or two other industrial type employment areas. The garbage bins in the street, very, very nice, but they didn't design them to take cardboard boxes.
Oh.
So the shopkeepers just stack the cardboard boxes next to the bins, and presumably someone has to come around and pick up the cardboard boxes. All right. Whereas an intelligent design would have said, "What's the biggest thing people would want to put in here, and how do we deal with it?" Or, and of course, by the way, you might remember from Fairfield, I was responsible for waste services in Fairfield as part of Director of Environmental Services.
Yes.
And there are also toxics, and we had a service there called Toxic Taxi. And so if you had paint you needed to get rid of, or engine oil, or whatever, herbicides, what have you, there was a special black bin, not a bin, like a picking bin, a storage bin.
Yes.
And you put your toxics in that and dialed the council number and registered your address, and the toxic taxi would come and pick those up and take them to the recycling plant for special treatment. So I don't know whether that's attended to or not. I didn't see anything of that nature. But you've got to think pretty broad when you're talking about garbage. You can't just say there's no garbage trucks, because now what are people going to do with their toxics? Pour them down the drain? Well, that's counterproductive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as an end result of all of that, what I found online was that Songdo has sold 1/3 of its product that it meant to have sold by this time in its process.
Yeah.
So that must mean that it is borderline in terms of profitability. And therefore, I would think a better planning team, I don't know the planners, I don't want to cast aspersions on them, but perhaps they were driven by the developer, perhaps it wasn't a planning team, perhaps it was all architects, I don't know, and would have attended more to those sustainability issues and made it a better city, and then you would have got your real estate program. Cities take a long time, though. Perhaps it will come good. Perhaps there will be so many voters there that the state legislation says we'll build a new rail line, and in 10 years' time you get a new rail line and it sorts itself out. But at this stage, I would say, yes, it's got some smart city management, but you can't be a smart city if your fundamentals are done.
Yes, absolutely. So walkability for residents is very important, and of course public transport, especially if you don't want urban sprawl, so to speak, high-speed long-distance transport seems to be a good solution to what you're saying.
Yes, it's all about sustainability and resilience.
Yes.
What happens to those people if gasoline prices peak for a short time?
Yep.
That was the trigger for the 2007-2008 global financial crisis. So yeah, those sort of things, if you don't have the ability to take alternatives, then in planning terms, we say it's not democratic. We're not talking about the option of voting for a politician. We're saying the urban design has forced you to live one choice.
with a car.
You don't have choice, therefore it's not a democratic design. Yeah,
that's a very interesting term you've used there. Now, on that, you've mentioned a lot about the city there in South Korea. How will smart cities improve the lives of residents in the future? Obviously, time saving, because you mentioned the lift, the car to the lift, that sort of a thing.
If it works well, for example, I don't know whether anyone's done it yet, but I remember reading someone was proposing that if they could get the data from the smartphones in cars and measure when they do a bump, just a did-it, okay, then you can automatically plot where the potholes are.
Oh.
You don't have to do a road patrol, right? I mean, you know where the speed bumps are. That's in your engineering system already, in your geographic information system already. And you know where the little metal cat's eyes are and things like that. So you know where they are. So if you're getting a bump from 1,000 cars a day and it's not in one of those locations, then it's a pothole. So you don't have to have a road patrol go out and look for potholes. You know where they are. Then you can use AI to plot how many potholes a team can deal with in a day using the shortest travel distance. And also even the best times of day to go and fix those potholes with minimum interruption to the traffic. And AI can do all of that.
Yeah.
And schedule for the road teams in that municipality, the road repair team or teams in that municipality. Each morning they can turn up for work. There's their schedule. In the car, out they go. The schedule could even be delivered automatically to a smart device on the vehicle. And they go from job to job. There's the pothole, bang, fix the pothole, go. Eventually, there might be robotic pothole repairers.
Automated, yes.
The whole thing becomes AI. Okay? And remember, it's a separate topic, but I have written a paper on the jobless city. What will the city be like when people do not have any jobs? But that's a separate issue, yes.
Yes, I mean, there is a political candidate in the US elections currently discussing that, Andrew Yang. He's started to speak about how AI will start to, free up people's time a lot more without that they won't be working, there won't be the jobs there. So, but yes, topic for another day. Yes. You mentioned a little bit about your presentation. Could you go into a little bit more depth about your presentation?
Thank you. Talk about my presentation. I love to. Okay, what I've been working on for about 5 years is what I started off by calling the revolution in urban planning. What will be the impacts of new technologies in urban planning? So, smart city is about the impact of new technologies on the city. And revolution in urban planning is what is the impact of these new technologies on the practice of urban planning so we can do the planning better, also faster, because we've got to build cities for 3 billion people in 30 years.
Yes.
It's a lot of to build. So we need to do it faster. Also, we can't afford to rebuild those cities or even bits of them. We've got to get them right first time. So plan right, build once. And can we use AI to do that properly, to do that better? So I demonstrated 2 different AI logics using different types of AI. Difficult to do without putting all the slides up and so on. But I showed how you could do district structure planning.
Okay, yes.
In a way that is feasible. It's a canned model done in PowerPoint, so it's not a real model.
Yes.
And then I showed how you could do sub-regional and district structure planning. Then I showed how you could use procedural generation to generate street and plot layouts at the neighbourhood level.
Wow.
That includes a thing we call city DNA, or the DNA of a city, which is capturing the essential urban design elements. I'm not talking the architectural elements or the cultural elements. I'm a town planner, urban designer, so we're talking about the urban design elements.
Yes, yes.
Every city you go to has a slightly different way of doing urban design, and obviously London, Paris,
New York,
Vienna, Lisbon, what have you, are immediate great examples. New York, for that matter. Comes about from their history of settlement, things that happened, or didn't happen. The Great Fire of London gave an opportunity to replan, but it was not taken. Good story about Charles II and Christopher Wren or something, but anyway, it's a separate story. And Paris had Napoleon III and Baron von Haussmann, and they did change the city. So a whole bunch of stuff comes into the reason why. Now, what we struggle with now is because we have what's called the developer model of developing cities. They get a big tract of land, and they bring in a team, and they do it in a certain style, and then the developer next door does it in a different style, deliberately to try and get a marketing advantage. But the end result is that the city has no theme. My friend Jim Kunstler wrote a book some years ago called The Geography of Nowhere. And if you read one town planning book, people, The Geography of Nowhere by Jim Kunstler, and there will be a link on the screen. And anyone can read that. Very easy book. Mid-high school up. Lovely book.
Explain a bit about the book and his topic.
Geography of Nowhere is about why American towns from post-World War II through to the 80s all started to become Hollywoodish, cartoonish. Sorry, cartoonish is the word. They all had streets leading in and out of town with fast food joints and worse. And you know, every American movie almost has this shot of the strip motel, the motel on the highway strip leading into town. And something bad's going to happen there. There's a tiny little swimming pool with a fence around it. You know, there'll be a dead body in it or something. So that sort of thing. And why did that happen? And what could we do about it?
Yeah, okay.
So, and it applies virtually throughout the Western world. I have presentations where I show a photo and say, where is this in the world? And no one can guess where it is because it could be anywhere. It's
just so common. And that goes back to the point you were saying about, when the developers currently come in, they try to make it different from the plot of land next door rather than adopt to the urban environment.
Yes. Now, if we get the urban design consistent, it means the architecture can be varied. But when you have the architecture varied and the urban design varied, you get a nothing. Okay? If you had all the architecture the same, like you said, you've all got to do it in white stucco with red roofs. You can have the roads go anywhere, and that's a Greek hill village or an Italian hill village. The roads go everywhere, but it has a consistency through the architecture. Now, I don't think people want consistency in architecture in big cities. Little villages, cool. But big cities, no. So if we're going to have a variation in architecture, we need to have a consistency in urban design in order to give the city a wholeness.
Yes.
So
that's something interesting.
Of course, this is a big topic. Okay.
Yeah, but
I've got about 20 things going through my head. Let's just move on to the presentation.
Yes, sorry. So the presentation, please continue.
Yeah. What I'm working on now is trying to get funding for proof of concept out of my current employers. I think it's a major opportunity for them.
Yes.
To be the first country in the world with AI-assisted planning.
Yes.
There is 3 examples in the world at the moment. There is a book by Professor Michael Batty called The New Science of Cities. Very erudite, very well-researched book, but with due respects to the professor, I don't think it will work. I'm a practical planner. I do planning. I cannot see it working. Happy to be convinced otherwise, but the examples in the book don't convince me.
Yes.
There is Sidewalk Labs, which is a division of Alphabet, so it's a brother or sister company to Google Maps.
Yes.
To Google, I should say. They produced a generative design tool called GenDes, and they have a little 3-minute video you could have a look at. But it's only doing 2 city blocks, and it ends up maximizing it by producing something that's very much like Corbusier's Ville Radiant, which is the City of Light, which is just tower block, tower block, tower block, with a little bit of variation in the tower blocks. and you can do very, very good multi-story development and Discovery Point at Walleye Creek. You know, I did that one. But you've got to get it transit-oriented, and you've got to get a urban design in there that makes it a special place. And just to randomly put blocks down by a computer and say this optimizes, they only use three criteria: public open space, access to sunlight on the ground and the windows of the buildings,
yes,
and GFA, which is the profitability measure, gross floor area. I don't know, I could probably sit down and in an afternoon produce 100 characteristics you should be trying to maximize. So it's useful to see that happening, see what's going on. We will learn from it. It'll be twice as powerful for half the price in 2 years' time, and gradually we'll get somewhere perhaps. But I don't think it's there yet. And then space syntax was the third example. I didn't actually give an example because his latest example has not been approved by the government that he did it for yet, or they did it for yet. But Space Syntax is a very long-standing London-based company that are expert in using AI on the movement aspects of cities.
Oh, okay.
And they've gone from using that to help design a major city extension. And it's great work. But Tim Stoner, who's the managing director of that, who I know quite well, he's seen the work I've prepared, and he said I'm way ahead of what they're doing or whatever anyone else in the world is doing.
Wow.
So unless there's something happening in the secret lab that we don't know about, I'm confident I'm on the right track, and we should at least go to proof of concept. And the good thing is, even if I'm on the wrong track, that proof of concept will help me redirect.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was it? Einstein or someone famous once said he'd rather do it 1,000 times wrong so he knows the right way to do it once or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the way science works. It's not gambling where you try to get the right answer first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you had a really fascinating time, and obviously your talk was very, very important. How was it received? Were some people?
A senior Saudi planner asked the first question. He asked about public participation in the process.
Oh, yes.
I explained that we're only intending the process to come up with the first draft automatically, and then we need review by people.
Yes, yes.
We're a long time off where we could just say, right, produce a plan for a city and then not look at it and just assume it was right. Now, if we get the first draft right, then we need, this is where I take a different tack to Professor Batty. I only want to get the first draft, then send it to all the agencies, consult with the communities on the first draft. It is a lot easier for everybody to correct something put in front of them. It's very hard for people, and I do workshops and charrettes and things around the world, and we have processes that help people.
Yes.
But you can see people struggling when you say, what's your vision for the area? How do you think it could be better?
Yes.
And a lot of this is if you remember, Steve Jobs said, we skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is.
Yes.
And it takes that vision to know where the puck is going, which he was obviously exceptional at.
Yes.
But if we show people this is what we think answers your questions, then they can say, oh, I like that, don't like that. Oh, why don't you like that? Da, 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 da.
Yes.
Then we can feed that into the second draft. And also we can take that information and plug it back into the algorithms to say that particular algorithm or algorithms are producing a result that is not favoured by the community. How do we tweak that algorithm? So the learning process will go both ways. As well as that, as well as the community, there's the Water and Sewerage Agency, the Roads and Drainage Agency, the Bridges and Tunnels Commission or whatever, the gas, electricity, the airport, the main roads, the railways, security, so environmental agency, heritage agency, so many agencies that again, if you say what do you want, they'll just come back with a wish list of what they want, and of course they're all counterproductive. Right, the cultural agency will want to preserve everything, as will the environment agency, and the economic development agency will want to massively have industry.
Yes.
They're counterproductive. But if you give them an option and say what's good and what's bad, then we get the red ticks and so on and so forth, and what can you tolerate, what can't you. We will get to the final draft faster.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes us 2 years to produce the first draft master plan for a big area.
Wow.
Perth, okay, Northern Corridor, 30 million people. And it was a review of a previous plan that had been done 20-odd years earlier. Still took nearly 2 years to get a first draft plan that we could present to people. If we can use a computer to get that first draft in months instead of years, then we've shortened that part of the process, and we can spend a bit longer on the review part of the process and still come up with a better answer in a shorter time.
Yes,
and
yes.
cheaper time, of course.
Yes.
That's where that's working. That's leading edge.
Yes.
It was
now,
theoretical, conceptual, but very well received. Yes.
People that are online or are seeing this for the first time or haven't seen you online, they can follow you on Facebook or LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And
you'd like to learn about smart cities.
This is a podcast or a video blog. I get confused with this stuff. And just put in a little personal message.
Fantastic.
And then I can accept.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm careful about just accepting anybody who just clicks connect. Yeah. And
of course, you've got examples of your work up there on your LinkedIn, which is fantastic. So people can go through many of the amazing projects that you've either worked on or helped with, and that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Was there anything else that you'd like to add or say to the viewers out there about the conference or anything upcoming?
No, I think that's good, except next week I will be in Dubai it's called Smart Rail and Mobility Summit. And that's in Dubai next Tuesday, Wednesday.
And will you be presenting?
At transit-oriented development.
So you'll be presenting again. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for your time, and I look forward to our next video, and hopefully the viewers have learned something, and we've been able to showcase some of your amazing skills.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, Paul.